Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you all about the latest from Humavoid, Lidless, out August 21st on Noble Demon. This album has 10 tracks, 46 minutes in length, and this is the band's second full-length studio album. First album with Noble Demon, and these guys are a prog metal band from Finland. So at least now you have a little bit of a baseline on where the band is and what their sound is about before we get deeper into this album review. Now, as far as this record is concerned, I really feel like you have to break it down into vocals and sound. The sound kind of defines the structure, but I really believe the sound element of the album is definitely one of the highlights of the record, and is definitely one of the beacons of this album, with the vocals as well. From a sound perspective, this record really expands. Every song is different. Every song takes you on a different journey, provides you with different influences, different approaches, different construction as far as the songs are concerned, and that impacts the overall structure of the album. An album that is not a roller coaster ride by no means, but it's definitely a bumpy ride. I really felt that they did enough to change the dynamics of the songs, the construction of the tracks, the way the sound is put together, the way the sound is constructed, in order to keep the listener engaged with every single song. And like I said, expanding on the sound, really allowing the tracks to grow with each and every single one as you move along the record. Perhaps the only element that I would like to see changed as far as the overall feel of this record is concerned is a little bit more heaviness. I felt they did a great job keeping the prog elements as the baseline of the album and the baseline on every single track, and then adding other elements, other influences into how the songs are constructed, how the songs are created, and the direction of each and every single track. So all of that is really well put together. All of that is really wonderfully done, and they did a great job across all 10 tracks. But I felt that they left a little bit off the table. An album like this, an album that is this dynamic as far as sound is concerned, that stretches the limits, the boundaries, that go beyond a genre, that really bring other things in, and they're not afraid of experimenting with ideas, with sound approaches, with influences. I really felt that it needed at times a little bit more heaviness, and it became too technical, and it lost a little bit of the strength and power that I really felt it needed as far as sound is concerned, because it's there from a vocal perspective, but from a sound perspective, at times felt too technical, and there was not enough consistency in the overall experience, and there was not enough heaviness to really change the eyesight of the tracks, because they are so dynamic, they're so fluid, so groovy, so technical, that you get lost in them, and sometimes you need to be brought back down to earth. And the way you're going to bring the listener back down to earth is by having a little bit of extra bite on the guitars, a little bit of extra bite on the drums. Bring a little bit more bass, a little bit more heaviness, a little bit more volume. Because texture and layers, they're already there. You just need a little bit more volume and a little bit more heaviness. So I felt the album at times felt a little bit too light, a little bit too technical. As far as vocals are concerned, I really felt that they were more cohesive and consistent. Having said that, they're super dynamic. The same that I said about the sound being very dynamic and very fluid, the same could be said about the vocals. Because you get clean vocals, harsh vocals, male vocalists, female vocalists. So you have a wide range of options on where you can go on every single song on this album. But I felt that they kept it a little bit more concise, a little bit more cohesive, and therefore a little bit more consistent. Within this array of options, they really didn't stray too far off. They didn't try too many things outside of their comfort zone. So while the menu is very deep and vast, they stayed within that menu. They really didn't go a la carte, if you will, for this album as far as vocals are concerned. So from that perspective, this is an album that, as far as the sound is concerned, it expands, and then the vocals are there to contract it. So you always feel like there's this motion, this heartbeat with every single song, and then overall with the feel of the album, of the sound expanding, the vocals contracting, the sound expanding, the vocals contracting. That's kind of the motif, the feel, the atmosphere that you get listening to this album. Overall, this is a strong record. This is the band's second record, first album, like I said, with Noble Demon. So to me, this is an album that almost opens up more questions in terms of what the band can do as far as the future is concerned, that it answers any thoughts or any doubts that you had in your mind about their ability or where are they going to go with their sound. So after listening to this album, I really would like to see them increase the heaviness a little bit musically, because vocally is there, increase a little bit of heaviness musically. I would like them to include a lot more of those jazz elements that they did on this record. I thought they were magnificent. They really added a different perspective. They added different atmosphere, a different feel to this record. I would like to see more of that even. I would like to see that become more of a predominant piece of the overall puzzle that this band has for how they want to create music. But this is definitely an album that piques my interest, and while not being an outstanding record, it's definitely a record that showcases their talent, showcases the tools that they have at their disposal, and really allows you to dream and imagine how the next album is going to sound like, and what other doors they can bring down, how much can they expand even further on their sound, on their ideas, on their creativity. And sky almost becomes the limit for a band like this, because they do have a lot of tools at their disposal. They know what to do with them. It's just a matter of fine-tuning a few different elements to really get the most out of each and every single member of the band. As far as tracks are concerned, I want to start off with Fortune for Demise. This is the opening track. The mixing vocal styles and approaches works wonderfully on this track. The song has a jazz under vibe to it, to the sound, and that's something I really like about this song, and that's something I really like about the overall record. The songs that had more of a jazz cabaret feel to it are the ones that I gravitated more towards, because it allowed the technical side of the band to showcase itself, and you didn't really need heaviness in those tracks. And heaviness is something that, in my opinion, overall musically is lacking on this album. So a song that's constructed like this with a more of a jazz vibe to it works extremely well for the overall feel that this record has. Adding a mixture of vocal approaches allows the song to be dynamic and fluid, and it gives the track the up and down motion. It creates a little bit of that roller coaster ride without changing too much as far as the overall soundscape of the track is concerned. So the vocals, once again, are the ones pulling the strings on the track, while the music is very concise and very cohesive all the way through. I like that aspect of this song. I like the vibe that it has, and I definitely like the darker side of the song in the second half. This is definitely a song of two halves. The first part of the song, a little bit more melodic, a little bit more creative. The second part, there's definitely a little bit more darkness to it, but I like those changes. It allows the track to be very well balanced. Next, What You Hide. This is more of a groovy track. Doesn't have that same jazz feel, but it has more of a grooviness built into it. The clean vocals add a lot of melody to the way this song comes across. It really changes the dynamic of the track. It really becomes the beacon and definitely the guiding light for the pattern that this song is going to create within itself as you move along. Switching to harsh vocals on the song creates a little bit of a paradox between the cleans and the harsh vocals. I like that aspect. I like that dynamic. They offer a really interesting switch between the two, and it works well in the overall picture of this song. It definitely doesn't take anything away from the song. It doesn't make the song heavier, but it does create this alternate style and this alternate world within the track itself, because the music stays very consistent. And once again, on this song, it's the vocal peaks and valleys that really push at the track, that really expand the overall feel that the song has. And that allows the song to be dynamic, it allows the song to be fluid, and becoming a little bit heavier at times, both musically and vocally. One of, not the heaviest songs on the album, but definitely one of the songs that has a little bit more bite, and that's because of the clean vocals and how much down they bring you, so that when everything else moves upwards, either be with the harsh vocals or a little bit of extra bite on the guitar, you really feel it, because your eyesight changed very drastically from one point to the other. So those large fluctuations of moving up and down make the song feel heavier, even if it's not necessarily a heavy song. Last but not least, the breathing method. This is one of the heaviest, if not the heaviest tracks on the album, both musically and vocally. Still very melodic, still very groovy, but for sure one song that adds a lot of heaviness and intensity in how it's created. And this song kind of became a beacon to me, because I wanted more tracks built in the way that this one was, or at least to use the same kind of elements, the same structure, the same bass line that was used in this song. I felt that it worked very well for the style of the band, for the two vocalists that they have, for how they construct songs. It allowed the track overall to have a bigger impact, a bigger volume. The backing vocals on this track add a lot of intensity. They add also a little bit of heaviness in how the track comes across, but it's a song that in a live setting would work really well, because those backing vocals would give a sense of singing and shouting, of answering, of questioning and answering. It would create a dynamic between the band and the audience that would work very well in a live setting. So this is a track that in my opinion will translate to an even heavier, more dynamic, more powerful song played live versus the studio. But as a studio track on this album is definitely one of the heaviest songs, and one of those that I enjoyed the most, because it had a little bit more intensity, it had a little bit more of aggression, and I was a huge fan of how they used the backing vocals to give a little bit more intensity, a little bit more aggression, a little bit more of a spunk, of a spark, if you will, to how this song comes across to the listener. This is it, guys. This is Humavoid, Lidless, out August 21st on Noble Demon. Let me know your thoughts on the band. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.